Learning styles, the good, the bad, and the ugly truth. What are learning styles? We've been taught that each of us has a distinct style in which we learn best. Kinesthetic learners learn best by doing things. Visual learners learn best by seeing things. Auditory learners learn best by listening to things. The good, the bad, and the ugly truth. The bad news is that if you believe in learning styles, you are wrong. The good news is that it's not your fault. The ugly truth is that there is no research to support learning styles. Educators have a misconception. When surveyed, over 90% of people believe they have a specific learning style. Many teachers are still told they need to figure out what their students' learning styles are and that they should accommodate for them in their classroom. There are a host of companies and organizations that support learning styles and, for a fee, will train you on how to maximize your students' learning styles. How we prefer to learn doesn't enhance our learning. When tested in experimental conditions, research has shown that learning styles don't actually exist. People may have learning preferences such as, I prefer to see it, I prefer to hear it, I prefer to actually do it. However, research shows that these preferences don't actually enhance learning. We all learn in different ways. We all learn using all of our senses and in different ways. No one is just a visual learner, just a kinesthetic learner, or just an auditory learner. People may have learning preferences. For example, one person may prefer to be given directions by seeing a visual map, while someone else prefers to be given verbal instructions. This doesn't determine that the first person is only a visual learner, while the second is only an auditory learner. These are merely learning preferences, not learning styles. What is neuroeducation? Neuroeducation is an integrative field that combines neuroscience, psychology, and education to create improved teaching methods and curricula. Researchers are gaining a more sophisticated understanding of how young minds develop and learn. How does neuroeducation affect educators? Teachers are vulnerable to misinformation raised in connection with the field of neuroeducation and its relevance to classroom practice. Educators are eager for innovative methods to improve student learning, but they lack the scientific training needed to critically assess the methods of neuroeducation. This combination of interest and lack of expertise leaves educators susceptible to unrealistic promises about the potential of neuroscience to help with the practical problems of teaching. Know the facts behind brain research. Educators strive to constantly improve instruction by searching out relative knowledge. This is a good thing, but it often lends to misinformation. Educators often seek out information through classes and professional development on how to identify and address students' learning styles. Too often, information is absorbed without questioning its validity. When put to the test, learning styles don't exist. Psychologists have studied the perception that students have specific learning styles, that some are visual learners and others are auditory. In a recent study of the relevant research published in the journal Psychological Science in the Public Interest, a team of psychologists found almost zero support for such ideas. They concluded that the disparity between the enormous popularity of learning styles approach within education and the lack of reliable evidence for its effectiveness to be alarming. Learning styles are a myth. Educators have been trained to implement learning style teaching methods into their lessons for so long that it is difficult for them to change their perception. Surely the best way to challenge educational myths is to provide teachers with the evidence and show them that the idea they accept as true is a myth. If only it were that easy. The social psychologist Norbert Schwartz and his colleagues revealed that often, when presented with compelling evidence that certain statements were false, people frequently misremember the false statement as being true. The truth about learning styles. Students are different and have diverse learning preferences. Research studies found no benefit in matching teaching styles to students' learning preferences. Multiple representations of a concept are typically more helpful to learners than just one. Studies show this to be true for all students, regardless of their preferred learning preference. Teachers are eager to listen to their students and what kinds of lessons they like best. Sometimes students latch on to learning styles as a way to express boredom or incomprehension. Sorting students into styles puts them into a category instead of treating them as individuals. Research-based neuroeducation strategies. Throw out everything you knew about studying and learning. What does research say? There are effective and reliable approaches to learning. In recent years, cognitive scientists have shown that a few simple methods can reliably improve how much a student learns from studying. For instance, instead of studying in one place, merely changing the location where a person studies improves retention. Studying distinct but related skills in one sitting, rather than focusing on a single thing, also improves learning. Strategies to learn according to Benedict Carey. Alternate the study environment. Vary material with mixed practice. Take breaks and space out study time. Study distinct but related concepts in one sitting. Listen to music while studying. Alternate the study environment. Stephen Smith, Robert Bork, and another psychologist, Arthur Glenberg, all at the University of Michigan, wondered what would happen if people studied the same material twice, but in two different places. A change in environment improved memory by 40%. This evidence seems to suggest that learning in a variety of settings greatly improves students' ability to recall learned information. Vary instruction by utilizing mixed practice. Doug Rohr and Kelly Taylor of the University of South Florida conducted a study in which two groups of children either studied repeated examples of problems or mixed sets of problems. Children who studied mixed sets of problems scored 77% compared to 38% scored by students who only studied repeated examples. When students are given a list of problems of the same type, they know what the strategy is to solve them before they even read the problem. With mixed practice, each problem is different from the last one, which means students have to learn to choose the appropriate method. Take breaks while studying and space out study time. The technique is called distributed learning, or more commonly, the spacing effect. People learn as much and retain it longer when they distribute or space their study time. Distributed learning in certain situations can double the amount we remember later on. Study distinct but related concepts in one sitting. Varying the type of material studied in a single setting seems to leave a deeper impression on the brain than does concentrating on just one skill at a time. Listening to music is another way we can alter our learning environment. A psychologist named Stephen M. Smith performed an experiment in which students were divided into 3 groups. Each group studied 40 words. One group studied in silence, while the other 2 studied listening to jazz and Mozart. The punchline: of those who studied and tested in the same condition, the silence group did the worst. They recalled on average about half the words of the jazz or the classical groups did. 11 versus 20. This is bizarre, and it raised an unexpected question. Could quiet somehow be inhibiting memory? The answer was no. If it had, then those who'd studied the jazz would have done worse taking the test in silence than with the Mozart, and vice versa. They hadn't. This study shows that having some kind of mental stimulation in a learning environment, such as music, can improve the student's ability to retain information. In closing, Carey states, in short, it is not that there is a right way and a wrong way to learn. It's that there are different strategies, each uniquely suited to capturing a particular type of information. A good hunter tailors the trap to the prey. References.